seeing the teaser trailer that Justin had put together with his tax return money. It was kind of amazing. I think you guys have all seen it on YouTube as well. And I just remember seeing it and thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see this movie. And then later finding out that it actually hadn't been made, that this was his pitch to the world about his idea and what he wanted to say. I was drawn to it at that moment. So then going to read the script and seeing everything that was in there, and it was funny and it was smart, and I was dying to be a part of this.
The conversation in this film is about a whole lot of things. That Spike Lee film, School Days, was a musical. And it was sort of an internecine conversation by black people to black people. This is a much wider palette. Talk a little bit about that big story and everything, all of the things that you're talking about in this film.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, School Days to me is about the sort of the black experience within the black community. And just by nature of the way I was raised, I always found myself sort of in between different kinds of black communities and white communities and Latino communities and artist communities, and I just always found myself kind of in the middle and not really having a home in any of them, really, or feeling completely at home in any of them. And the paranoia of that and the insecurity of that, like I wanted to talk to, and found that a lot of my other friends were sort of in that same space. So that was a part of it. But I will say that as I developed the script and went further with it, there came a time when I decided that the film was not necessarily just about race or racism or black identity. It was about identity, period, full stop. It was about, the relationships between, it was about the relationship between who we really are and who we purport ourselves to be and how people see us and sort of navigating that relationship and how tricky that can be. And so for me, I'm talking about something that affects everybody. It's part of the human condition, but I'm talking about it through a black lens. And, that sort of gave me the best of both worlds. I got to say something, that was sort of bigger, than just sort of like race politics or something like that. But I also got to bring complicated, interesting, rarely seen sort of depictions of black people to the screen. So I was able to sort of check multiple agenda items. And the film certainly has a lot on its mind. It certainly has race politics on its mind, and white privilege on its mind, and all kinds of things on its mind, but they all sort of hang on this idea of identity versus self. And I think all four of, the lead characters are really in a different place in that struggle.
One of the more interesting things in the film is about her identity. We live in a time when we used to yell at Whoopi Goldberg for wearing blue contact lenses. That was a big thing at one point in the zeitgeist. Talk a little bit about Coco and her identity.
I think we were talking about this before. I feel like Coco, whether you agree with what she's doing or not, she's one of the few who is aware of what she's doing and makes a conscious choice to do it because she believes that this is her way of moving forward in this world. And it doesn't matter what it takes to get there. I think she's very aware of the different categories, and she's chosen this one because this is what she believes will help her. So yeah.
Very interesting. So I think we need to take some questions here. Have we worked out how we're going to do this? Is there a microphone floating around? Yeah. If you have a question, raise your hand. Gentleman right here in the front, you don't need a microphone, you can yell. You're talking about those blackface parties? Okay, yeah, well, let's talk about the blackface parties. Which, there was
Let's talk about blackface.
Yeah, let's talk about blackface. Let's do it. I've been waiting to say that for 53 years. Thank you, sir. Let's talk about that as soon as they happen in the real world. What came first, this or those events in the real world?
The chicken or the blackface? You know, I actually, in writing this as a satire, there was a blackface party, as often happens when you write a satire. No, but there was in my script. And I took it out because it never happened to me at my college, and I thought, frankly, as a writer, you know, maybe I'm doing too much. And this was like 2009, 2010, just one of many drafts of the screenplay. I took out the blackface party. And then one such incident on the UC San Diego campus, you know, made national headlines. And I kind of went down that crazy rabbit hole that a lot of us did when that made national news. And what was so crazy about it was that, you know, to me, and I think to anyone with common sense, it was like a clear-cut case of institutionalized racism. It was, you know, less than 2% of the college campus was black. This fraternity threw this blackface party for, like, in protest / honor of Black History Month. It was, you know, and then when the kids, yeah.
That's another great sentence.
It was really bizarre. And then the kid, you know, once the black student population sort of like organized and like threatened to leave the school, you know, together and, you know, were really fighting for, you know, what they saw as, you know, insensitivity on campus and an opportunity really to foster diversity on campus, they were kind of heckled by, you know, some of the white students and saying that they were encroaching upon their freedom of speech. And then the fraternity went out and found this guy named Jigaboo Jones, who was like a local rapper.
Probably not his actual name.
I think it might have been his government nickname. Yeah, he was born Jigaboo Jones. No, so they went out and found this guy named Jigaboo Jones, who because he wanted to, like, I guess, start his rap career, you know, co-signed the party and said that he actually threw the party. So it was like this like really complicated situation in which black people had their hands on it, white people had their hands on it. Obviously there were student activists who were white that were for, you know, the minority black population on that campus. And it was just this real it just became this like conversation that went on for months and months about like who was right and who was wrong. And ultimately, and I found this out because one of the women involved in that, in, you know, in those protests was actually at a screening we did a couple days ago. And eventually they ruled that, yeah, it was an encroachment on freedom of speech to deny this fraternity from throwing this party. So they won in the end, in this place that sort of was all about fostering diversity. And it was in the name of diversity that they were protecting freedom of speech. So it was just a very complicated issue. And I wanted to, you know, without just ripping it directly from that school and those headlines, I wanted to sort of portray that complexity. And, you know, it's sort of one of the enduring influences that Do the Right Thing had on me, is that you sort of go in, you know, the title is Do the Right Thing. So you go into the movie expecting to be told what the right thing is, and it never comes. Like, no one in the movie sort of consistently does the right thing. Even Mookie, who sort of rises to the occasion to become the hero, comes back to take the money from Sal. It's that complicated, true-to-life nature of it that, to me, makes it a much more honest film about race and the way racial violence occurs than some other films that perhaps are more dogmatic, and it's more clear-cut who's wrong and who's right. I was also really, you know, influenced and inspired just sort of studying history and the civil rights era, and, you know, particularly a lot of the images that have come out of the civil rights era, like finding out that those were in some ways staged because there was a bunch of really smart people that was like, you know what, we're in the struggle, but it's not making headlines. It's not making the news, it's not reaching the public consciousness. We need to find a way for this stuff that's kind of hidden under the surface to get to the front page. And I think all of that just sort of fused in my head, and that's why I approached it the way I did.
Very intriguing. Another question, please. Somebody throw it up high. There you go, way back there. You can just yell as loud as you can. I see you.
Okay. Have you had a lot of blowback about the movie? Because some people seem to think that freedom of speech is them being able to say racially insensitive things, and this movie is kind of like a strike back against that.
Have you had a lot of blowback about the movie?
It's kind of funny, because, yeah, people love to say, freedom of speech, you have the right to say this hateful thing. But it's like, yeah, but then I do too. They forget, like, it applies to both. I mean, by and large, to be really honest with you, like people show up for the movie of all races when we screen it. The majority of people of all races like get it and are not butthurt by the title. But yeah, there is like a small percentage of people that are super butthurt by the title and feel some kind of way that, you know, oh my God, the white race is being lumped into one group. And, you know, what if there was a Dear Black People? Of course, if they just clicked play on like any of the trailers and materials, they'd see that we not only address that, but, you know, I think also the film sort of, for every point, there's a counterpoint. So yeah, I've had some blowback, but mostly from people who haven't seen it. And people who have seen it, you know, I think intentionally the movie is supposed to leave you feeling some type of way. It's supposed to leave you feeling like you need to talk it out a little bit. It's intentionally supposed to leave you feeling a little uncomfortable. So that I've gotten, and sort of mission accomplished a little bit when I hear that. So, but yeah, for most of you who haven't seen it. Do you want to say something?
There you go.